Yo, tuned in, it's that time again. Welcome to the show under the bright zen. Just another messenger bringing the news with the beat in your soul. Let's light up these views. We're diving deep, no time for snooze. Grab your headphones, let me share the clues. In a world so loud where voices collide, we find the rhythm, let the truth be our guide. Hit that play button, feel the vibe. Every second counts, let's take that ride. From stories untold to laughs we share. Just another messenger, we're always there. Hi. It's a jam, just sit back and unwind. With our flow and our style, it's one of a kind. Like the mix, just like a DJ spins. We serve you the truth where the journey begins. It's a jam, we're all in this together. Sound waves linking us, no matter the weather. Just another messenger, we keeping it tight. With every single drop, we rise and ignite. Yeah.
Good day. I'm your host, Tamara L., and welcome to another installation of Just Another Messenger, where we raise the situational urgency and consciousness regarding today's current events. We'll dive deep into the historical past by examining the philosophies, legal system, and political decisions that continues to influence our daily lives. So please join the conversation during the episode. Your comment matters. Hit the subscribe, share, and like button to be a part of more thought-provoking conversation in the future. You wouldn't want to miss it. And don't forget to visit our website at www.JustAnotherMessenger.com that connects you to all our social feeds, online merch store, and our link to support the work via Cash App at $JustAnotherMessenger. So let's get started. All right. Let's get started here and welcome back. I hope everyone had a safe, joyous, and a blissful holiday break. I am the original Tamara L., your host, and this is season 2, episode 6. So tonight we're stepping into a conversation most people aren't supposed to hear. Now, you've seen the headlines. They have been sizzling, and you've watched the confusion go on the mainstream media. But what we're diving into tonight is the machinery behind it all, the blueprint shaping the government you're living under it right now. Now, while the country debates the surface issues, a deeper architecture is being built underneath. And most Americans have no idea who drew the plans and how the plans are being drawn up. But these plans are old. Now, from the recent court strike down of a Trump-backed prosecutor to the larger governance framework widely referred to as Project 2025, to the historical tug-of-war over executive power that goes all the way back to Jefferson, Hamilton, and Burr. We're going to get all into that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to connect the dots between the blueprint, the builders, and the battle for control of the justice system. We're going to do that tonight. And this isn't about politics. This is structure. This is power. And most of all, this is the party that, they don't teach you in school. Not in school, not in civics, and definitely not in your nightly news. You will not see it there. Now, if you're tuning in right now, on any of our personal Facebook page or YouTube, share this information, share this stream, because it's very important. And tag someone who's been asking these questions over and over again about what's going on in this world. Because tonight episode 6, is all about the architect behind the architecture that's going on right now. So let's go ahead and get into this today. All right, we got our first responders in the house, Malik Day, as well as our people over on Facebook. Please, I am not able to monitor you over on our Facebook page, so you want to go ahead and jump on over and be a part of the conversation now. Jump on over to our YouTube page, and also don't forget to continue to like, share, and subscribe. Just Another Messenger on our YouTube page. Also, we're out on X at jam_404 podcast. Also, if you or someone you know would like to be a part of the show, we're going to start building that up the first of the year. Send a nice friendly email to JustAnotherMessengerPodcast@gmail.com. And I would like to always thank you for your support and your continuous support to Just Another Messenger for our alternative as well as digital news outlet. I know you guys enjoy AI Tamara. And you can continue to do so through our Cash App at $Just Another Messenger. I know that says at Just Another Messenger. So it's $Just Another Messenger on Cash App. All right, we have a lot going on this evening. Let's get in there. We're going to take that information off the stage and we're going to get into what's going on around the world. Let me see here. You know, every time we go offline and come back, they change this whole system over. So it takes a little while to do that. But let's go ahead and get into it for today. All right. And before we do that, as always, we have a disclaimer. So, Just Another Messenger is a platform dedicated to the public education, historical awareness, cultural critique, and transformative discussions under the protection of Section 106 of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, commonly referred to as fair use. Now, Just Another Messenger does not provide statutory counseling for any United States court of law jurisdiction or proceeding, and the content presented by Just Another Messenger may include excerpts of copyrighted material such as images, audio, video, and written works for the purpose of criticism, commentary, news reporting, education, scholarship, and research. All such usage is non-commercial in nature and intended to stimulate public discourse, raise consciousness, and support transformative learning. We do not claim ownership over any third-party copyrighted material used. All rights and credit belong to the original creditors, and if you are the copyright holder of any material featured and have concerns regarding its use, please contact us directly via email for prompt resolution. And we're going to keep that banner strolling at the bottom because after all of our streams, they always want to hear us with a copyright strike. Yes, as if they can't see the banner scrolling across the bottom. Now let's get into what's going on in the news, because I know it's been sizzling. I come back from break and it seems like, oh my God, the world is continuing to be set on fire, and I love it. So let's get into this little trick that came out of the bag that they tried to sweep into another framework of holding on to the thread of an empire that is falling. Now, this one is called Helena Haba, and she is a New York attorney of Iraqi origin, and her father name is Saeed F. Haba, and he immigrated, which means he came to the United States in early 1900s during the Iran-Iraqi war, and he's a gastroenterologist, which is an ENT specialist. All right, and it states that she was born in 1984. Mother's unknown, and she was a 2002 graduate of Kent Place School, which is like a private school, and it was probably about 41 students that graduated with her during that tenure in 2002. That's in Summit, New Jersey, if you want to look that up for your own research purposes. Also, she's a 2005 graduate of Lehigh Valley University, that's in Pennsylvania. Also, she graduated in 2010 as a Juris Doctorate of Widener University Law School. In 2010 through 2012, let's look at this career succession after this, because it's a little fishy. She became a law clerk for 1 year. After becoming a law clerk in 2011 to 2013, she became an associate at a private practice, and the area was real estate as well as finance. At this time, she married a wonderful man that his father was the owner of an attorney firm, which is Sunderland Getz LLP. And from there, she worked from 2013 to 2019 as a managing partner and married a son named Matthew. And they were married from 2011 to 2019. And bear two beautiful children from that union. All right. Now, 1 year shortly after her marriage, she married. She started her own law firm in 2020, named Haba Media and Associates LLP, and she married Greg Rubin just a year later after being divorced from Matthew. Greg Rubin in 2020, who is a Jewish CEO of Center Park. That is a New York based company. Now, anyone who has ever traveled to NYC and you need to park and you see that yellow sign, yes, they pretty much own all the real estate parking play. I mean, I probably about a good 80-90% of the real estate parking spaces in New York when it comes down to parking. So yes, Elena Hubba is the current wife of Greg Rubin, who is the Jewish CEO owner of Center Park. Wow, great, impressive resume. But this is where the DEI, that's pendulum swings both ways. I'm going to show you how that thing is swinging both ways. All right, now this the Haba ruling. Now this is what we're defined as that first loyalty crack in this machine that's going on. Now her appointment, it instantly raised eyebrows because she wasn't a career prosecutor. That's why I wanted to show you her career track. She was a associate, a law clerk, an associate, and a managing partner. And her background was real estate. She was a real estate attorney and a family law attorney dealing with divorce. All right, so let's put a pin in that and pay attention here. This is where it's going to get really good. All right. Now, as we can say, this is where that crack started to show with this DEI. So they kind of should have left that alone. Now, she was a longtime professional, a longtime personal lawyer to Donald Trump. And when we gonna say long time, we're gonna just say as recently as 2015, but not in a forefront capacity way. Her sudden elevation to one of the most powerful prosecutor offices in the country signaled an unmistakable message. The DEI does not work for you, ma'am. So loyalty tried to become the new currency inside the justice system. It didn't work because the court's ruling was unequivocal and her appointment violated a lot of statutory requirements. It broke down long-standing Department of Justice protocols and it attempted to bypass established lines of authority. So, which means that her appointment tenure was deemed unlawful, and we're going to get into that. Now, when I say we're going to get into that, because this is quite important, because as this we're going to look at DEI, and I'm going to put on quite a few hats because I hold my bachelor's is in human resources. I worked in the human resources field for years. So anyone who's working in, as you're in this corporate structure and you're working, you're going to see that they're using the algorithms a lot of the applicant tracking systems to make the determination of who's hireable and who's not hireable. And they're starting to put in quite a bit of just unrealistic expectations in a lot of the job fields and things of that nature. And so there's going to have to be a little fine tuning trick that one must have to do on their end to kind of get past those machines if you're looking to stay employed in that corporate machine venue. But this is what happens a lot of times in the corporate employment realm. In recruitment process, there's a requirement that must take place, which means that if there's a requisition for opening position, that requisition must be posted a minimum of 3 to 5 business days to the public, as well as internally. So private as well as to the public. It has to leave room for there could be more suitable, qualified, merit-based candidate for open position. It doesn't matter if a person worked in that organization and they understand the lay of the land, but there may be missing some areas of lacking knowledge. So the public must be made aware of an opening position. So by corporate law, by employment law, a job must be posted for 3 days, publicly as well as private. All right. So, which means there must be a scoring model. It must be that information must be documented and logging that information took place. All right. So when that doesn't happen, there's a violation that occurs. So which means that someone can't just arbitrarily just move up in rank just because they're sitting in the seat. If that was the case, no one would ever get hired at these different corporations, because you have nepotism that continue to just flow and go and things of that nature. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a lot of employment law structure. We're dealing with DEI structure. Stay with me, because I'm pretty sure those that are uh, in that field, you're dealing with a lot of that. Even when you're looking for jobs, you're getting immediately rejection. So those immediate rejections are coming back because of those bots, the applicant tracking system, ATS systems. They're automatically rejecting a lot of the applications. And the way you can get around that is you copy the entire, so you mean you will have to change your resume for every job that you apply to. So the best thing in order, because you are the greatest machine. So in order to beat a machine made by someone else, made by man, you have to know the rules on how to beat the machine. This is how you beat the machine, people. Every job that you apply for, you copy the job requirements for that job. You upload your resume, you upload your resume into chat. I'll say chat GPT, or you can use Gemini. And I wouldn't say Mid Journey, because Mid Journey is too much imagery, right? So I would say you would either use chat GPT or you would use Gemini. So you will attach your resume in there, and you will say, um rewrite my resume. This is a prompt you'll use. Rewrite my resume attached based on this current job description. And you attach that updated job description in there, and it will remodify your current resume to suit that. It will go in there and rewrite the resume to make sure it's in alignment with that job that you're applying for. So that is a way that you're going to be able to get around the applicant tracking system, the chat box. It's going to match you up. You're going to have a higher ranking, and it's going to be less out getting kicked out of the system. So that's how you're going to do that. Hobble didn't understand the rules of engagement because she's moved up so fast through favor. She's moved up so fast in favor, she forgot to continue doing her homework. All right. So this is why the crack happened is so important. This is what she violated. The disqualification factors that took place with Hobble is that there was 3 factors that took place here. She violated the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, which is the FVRA. And the 3 primary legal violations that she violated doing this, it was called the nomination bar of the FVR. Now, for certain positions in government, it requires nomination, it requires Senate, it requires being voted into that position. Now, the law states that the individuals whose presidential nomination for a permanent position has been submitted to the Senate cannot serve in an acting capacity for that same office. So since President Trump had nominated Hobble for the permanent U.S. attorney position, her subsequent appointment as acting U.S. attorney was barred. So she was barred because they violated the vacancy protocol of employment. So therefore, even after her initial nomination was withdrawn, the court had emphasized that the act of submitting the nomination created the permanent ineligibility for her temporary role. Now, this is where they still kept trying to circumvent, dance, and do that shing lang lang ding long, right? Now, it was another requirement. It was called the first assistant requirement. Now, and I worked also my first job, and this is why I dislike Bill Clinton till today. My first job during high school was we was in this program, and it's called Future Business Leaders of America. And at the school that high school that I attended, you had to be an A student. You had to be an all A student to be in this program. And within this program, you were selected to work at during your junior year, going into your senior year, because technically after your junior year, I was literally done with high school. But because they didn't, during our time period, they didn't matriculate us out when you was completed after your junior year. They still made you complete your stay there your senior year. But they came up with this program called Future Business Leaders of America, and they put all of us who had high ranking grades at all these different corporations our senior year. So, which means that you were placed at IBM, you was placed at Center for Disease Control, you were placed at Coca-Cola, just different corporations, right? So I was placed at CDC, Center for Disease Control. I worked at Department of Birth Defects and Developmental Disability as administrative assistant, right? And the doctor that I worked for, he was doing a research in Brownsville, Texas, and on the study of birth defects in spina bifida, which is defects of the brains and defects of the spine of children that was being born in this area due to contaminated water. All right, that was taking place. Now, so what happened is that when you're hired into the government framework, they have this thing called last hired, first fired. So anytime there's a regime change in the presidency, what they would do, the budget, they're going to reassess and reevaluate the budget, which means that everybody always think that I think our people have selective amnesia, because the narrative is always going to be like, oh, Trump is laying off all these different people, but they failed to make the comparison that when Clinton came in office in 1992, in 1993, I remember because I was there. In 1993, it's like soon as he got inaugurated, put his hand up. I mean, the spring of 1993, we was out of there. 400,000 people lost their job. I was one of them. So I know what the pinch is like. So we didn't get these things. No one said, oh gosh, we're going to give you guys loans. We're going to no, it was like, you lost your job. Goodbye. Have a good day. Go figure out life. That's what it was. So this is one of the things that when you're in positions, there's a ranking order. There's a ranking order that must take place. And it's called, and in this position, it's called first assistant requirement, which means administration they attempted to install Hobble as first assistant U.S. attorney. In August, she automatically became acting U.S. attorney under the law's provision. The court ruled that only the individual serving as first assistant at that time, which was not Hubble, because what happened? They fired the girl in order for Hubble to even be sitting there for a couple of seconds, right? They fired that person that was already in that position in order for it to assume that Hubble was in that position. This is some nasty, dirty work in politics. So, the U.S. attorney vacancy first arises, automatically assumes that that they would get that top job. So Haba, she was installed in the first assistant role after the initial vacancy occurred and after the 120-day interim term expired, which they did not satisfy the statute's requirement. So there was a statute on that, but they was moving so fast. See, this is what happened when people don't understand the job requirements and the functionalities. They don't understand the law and how things move. That's why I said law is very specific, and there's a roots that. So there's been a movement taking place for years about the understanding of law governance, that all people must understand these things. And so many people has been laughed at. You think this only relegated for someone who attends a law school? No, each and every individual is all law. You must understand the governance of a society in order to be a part of that society. And this is what is forcing everybody to understand and do, because you are going to have to be able to defend yourself at all costs, because a attorney, a barrister, someone who has a bar member, that means they have their allegiance to the British Crown, the British Accredited Registry. That's what a bar membership is. So which means that you must now be able to govern your own mental and get into the fight of the law. Yes. So this is also, it was an improper delegation of authority, which means that Attorney General Pam Bundy also tried to grant Hobble full authority by appointing her as special attorney to the Attorney General with all powers of the U.S. Attorney. Nuh-uh. The appeals court said, oh, no, ma'am. You ain't that powerful. So they found this was an explicit violation of the Federal Vacancies Reform Act. This is explicit violation, and I mean, which centralized the process for filling vacancies and prevents the Justice Department from creating alternatives, off-ramp methods to bypass the statutory limits and a Senate override. Now, this is like crossing the line between judiciary and the executive. This is not a new playbook. This is not a new playbook at all. And I'm going to show you how this is a very old playbook that's coming home. That's why it's always important to understand what took place in historical past, because it is not changing. They'll go back and pull it off the shelf. They'll go back and pull these same playbooks off the shelf, and they'll have us twirling back in 1977 and 1980, and it's 2025, and you're thinking it's something new. It's not anything new. They just dust the dust off of 1783 and handed it to you on a platter in 2024, 2025. These are not new playbooks. But however, when you understand the parameters, when you understand the movement of law, so people always say that sovereignty shit doesn't matter. I'm gonna show you how that sovereignty shit matters, right? Let's get into it. All right, because this is dealing with when two political parties had emerged. This is dealing with the emergence of political parties. Now we're talking about, there was the Democratic. First, it started off with one party, just the Republican Party, my people. It was just one party. And then the KKK came in and started the Democratic Party. I'm sorry if that hurts some people's ears, but that is the truth. So go back and dig deep and pull that up. Yes, the KKK started the Democratic Party. And at this time, the leaders of that party was Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Okay. And it appealed to farmers who favored the South and the West. In the ideas of the government, they believed in states' rights over national government, strict construction of Constitution. Now we're going to get into the wordplay. I'm going to show you how the political football is still going on today between etymology. So if you think etymology doesn't matter, you go ahead and write that little word down, because you're going to be studying from now on. All right. And it deals with domestic policy, which is against national bank, against excise tax, against national debt. States pay their own debts. Tariffs should be low. All right. And the Democrat Republican. So everybody say, yes, it's the same bird, same wing, just flap the wings, go in the same direction. They supported the French Revolution. Then came along the Federalists. The Federalists. Now, we all know who was a part of the Federalists, Ben Franklin. All right, but the leader of that was Alexander Hamilton. So a lot of times, I'm going to show you, there's a play that you go to up in New York. It's called Hamilton Play. We're going to show you, this is a political play. So they always put you in the theater, right? So it's appealed to merchants, wealthy, and educated and city folks. Who does that sound like? Trump, right? Because Trump is in his 80s. So that means his grandfather and father and all that, they were a part of the Gilded Years, all of the gold. That's why he like all that gold, because his grandfather was fancied about the Gilded time period. And so Trump mind is in that little Gilded time period. So he loved that wealthy Gilded gold. So that's why Trump would be considered a Federalist. So Trump is not a Republican. He's a Federalist. And the ideals of the government, strong government over the states, loose construction of the Constitution. Take that Constitution, set that thing on fire. Implied powers, you do what I say, not as I do. Domestic policy, supported national bank, supported excise tax, national debt good for country, national government assumes state debts, tariffs should be high. Trump, 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 Trump. In favored foreign policy, it favors the British. So if you've been trying to figure out what in the world going on with Trump, I just let the cat out of the bag. We just pulled the curtain down. He is a Federalist, baby. All right. Look at that. Now look at these two, Jefferson and Hamilton, that started this, what we call this bloodless revolution. Yeah, bloodless. And didn't no fight go on. Nobody city got bombed. It wasn't no bombs over Baghdad. It wasn't none of that. Let me tell you what happened with this. This was the problems that was faced with Jefferson. Is Jefferson had a major dilemma when the Louisiana Territory was present, right? When it presented itself for sale, Jefferson had a major problem. Jefferson questioned, was the purchase of was it Constitution? Is it Constitution? Like, now they said, they went out on the expedition, such as the doctrine of discovery was given as the Pope gave the doctrine of discovery to come and discover the lands in Americas and things of that nature, and subdue it and change their language and culture and things of that nature. Jefferson questioned the expedition of Lewis and Clark to explore the new territories out west, because on what was only given to the United States, if you go back and understand, what was only given to the United States to be able to do business was only the eastern seaboard. So people go look up the 1783 Treaty of Paris, and the eastern seaboard was the only area that was ceded for commerce. Now, and then they moved over with the Northwest Ordinance thereafter. So anything beyond east of the Appalachian Mountain, keep in mind that the meets and bounds are mountains to the sea. So as you're looking at, you're trying to understand the sovereignty fight in Gaza, when they got rid of Labunt Hill, when he said from the mountain to the sea, he's talking about geography. He was laying out the meets and bounds, the latitude and longitude of the area that Israel was attempting to take over, the areas from the mountain to the sea. All right. So as Jefferson was facing these problems, the fights continued between England and France. Wow. Now, LaShonda, this is a good question. We're going to address this. Why they don't teach us this in school? Okay. We're going to get into why they don't teach you this in school. Because your oppressor will never let you know. Okay, I had to come on screen for this. I have to come on screen for this because they don't teach you this in school. Number one, there will be wars. There will be some serious wars to take place once you come into the understanding of who you are, whose you are, and what's been taken from you. And the only reason that we are working like we are working for someone else is because your birthright, your inheritance has been, it's not stolen from you. It was ceded from you and not restored back, which means you have not been placed back into your position of sovereign power, which means being the landlord of the land. So therefore, they have created racial constructs, and they have stated that we are in a wardship position and we are saying that we are minority, that is a position of wardship, number one. They have fed a racial construct that you are black, Negro, colored, African American. And there are songs created that are placed into the psyche, and the people continue to run around as minority and crayons. So they say you can't govern yourself. hmm hmm So, which means that why teach you that we are oppressing you? We have taken your land. We have taken all your natural resources that's been divinely given, and we wear your crown, we wear your titles. Why would we do that? They're not going to do that. But once it's understood who you are and you stand up, the play ends. It ends. So that's why we're teaching it here on Just Another Messenger. Yes. Yes, share the information. Please share the information. And this is why I want to show you the power. I want to go back a little bit. And I want to show you the power of I want to go back and show you the power of knowing law. I want to show you this power of knowing law. And if you can't do that, I think I'm gonna have to do it on another screen because I want to show you this, because this is what we talk about by what authority, right? And we're gonna go back to Elena Hobble, and we're gonna show you. We're gonna go back to by what authority did. Ooh, I'm gonna pull this up in another way because I want you to see this. All right, I want you to see this. All right, there we go. Now, by what authority? We're going to see this. Now, this Elena Hobble and Trump, they are facing, they're dealing with a constitutional question from a regular case. This is supposed to be a criminal case, which is, like not a criminal case, because there's only two elements of a crime. Write it down. There's only two elements of a crime, which is murder and attempted murder. All right. All else is financial crimes. All right. So let's look at this in the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey. Now, as you can see here, there's two cases on here. It's the United States versus Julian Garrard Jr. and Julian Garrard III. They are the defendants. So the United States is the plaintiff. All right. I don't know how you're supposed to be able to face your accuser. So I don't remember going to court with them. So we're gonna go bypass that, right? So the chief judge was Brand, right? Now there's also United States of America versus Caesar Humberto Pena, his dependent. That's another case, but it's together. This is what blew the lid off for Alina Hobble. Now this was a memorandum, a memorandum opinion of August 21st of 2025. Now, the executive branch was perpetuated Helena Hubble's appointment to act as United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. Now, memorandum opinion, which means that by what authority do you have to be a district attorney to be able to prosecute another person? In order to understand law, you have to be able to know how to challenge these authorities. And this is what this case did. The executive branch has perpetuated Alina Hubble's appointment to act as United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey through a novel series of legal and personal moves. Along the way, it has disagreed with the judges of the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey and criminal defendants in that district about who should or may lead the office. Faced with the question of whether Ms. Hubble is lawfully, did you see that? Performing the functions and duties of the office of the United States for the District of Attorney. I'm going to break that down in layman's term. When you read faced with the question, so this is a constitutional question that means by what authority does Ms. Hubble have to even be in that seat? I conclude that she is not. All right. So how do they conclude that she is not? All right. This thing is going crazy. All right. Let's bring it in. All right. Now we're going to move it over. We're going to do that. All right. This thing is long, so we're not going to go too deep into it. I want to move it over. It's a dependent motion challenges. I'm right here, y'all. Look at my circle. Dependent motion challenges the legality of Lena Hubble's appointment to serve. I got to move that over. To serve as acting United States, it said acting United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. They also raised question about the viability of actions that she took while purporting to be serving as the interim United States Attorney. Okay, people, there's two jobs right there. They said acting and they said interim. You can't serve two positions, all right? After reviewing several issues of first impression, the court concludes that Ms. Hubble has exercised the function and duties of the office of the United States for the District of New Jersey without lawful authority since July the 1st of 2025. Her actions since that point may be declared void ab initio, void from the beginning, including her approval of the indictment of defendant Cesar Humberto Pina, which means that and I'm gonna show you the importance of the position of a district attorney. They're the ones who make the decision to decide if you're going to get prosecuted or not. So because she was not, her position was not lawful, you can't put somebody, you can't act as a representative for the United States of America against him, and because you was not, that's like Daffy Duck being in there. No, including her approval of the indictment of defendant Cesar Humberto Pina, although that fact does not require its dismissal, and because she is not currently qualified to exercise function and duties of the office in an acting capacity, she must be disqualified from participating in any ongoing cases, including Ms. Pina's and those of defendants of Julian Garage Jr. and Julian Garage III, the Garage. Accordingly, for the following reasons, the Garage remaining relief is granted and Ms. Pina's motion is granted and part thereof is denied. All right, we're going to break this down. So basically, in a nutshell, child, you do not have any authority to act and prosecute anyone. So when I say, when we're talking about when you are to be presented to any of these administrative procedures, understanding the authority of the person who is attempting to lay claim against the body or the charge must always be the first thing in question. And that was being questioned. Who are you? What's your authority to be able to sit in that capacity and prosecute someone else? So that's why we're at this road we're at now. And it pulled the layer off. Now, this is also what happened also with Jefferson and Hamilton, because at this time, this is over 200 years ago. At this time, the fight was continuing between England and France at this time. Keep up with me now, people, because I'm telling the same story for the 200-year story up for 2025. I'm telling the same story. Now, in 1803, this also happened between the Marbury versus Madison situation. The Supreme Court had established what you call the judicial review. This is the same judicial review that was used against Alina Hubble, and that the ability of the Supreme Court to declare an act of Congress unconstitutional, which means that's why Hubble appointment was declared unconstitutional. This goes all the way back to 1803, based off the Judiciary Act of 1800. It's unconstitutional. Now, at that point, Marbury does not get his appointment due to the ruling in 1803. In 2025, Elena Hubble does not get her appointment in 2025. Question everything. Be in all law. Be in your governance of your mind. It's very important we understand this moving forward. Very important. Let's look at this. This also had to do with the 1803 of the Louisiana Pure Chase. It's not purchase, it's the pure chase, chasing the natives out of their land. Go west, young man. They were sending the white settlers out west to continue to push the American, Black, Negro, colored, African American nations. We were not tribes. We were tribal in our working together, but we were standing government nations. So this had to do with the 1803, the Louisiana Pure Chase, and it was a sale. Louisiana was a sale by the French. This territory was we was doing business. We had what you called a treaty. We had what you called a merchant contract, and we were doing business in that region. Those nations that was in the central zone of America's region were doing business with the French during that time. The French did not, then they had the controlling contract with the America's nation. All right. They did not own the land. They had the main contract. And at that time, they wanted to sell their contract because they was at vast war and they were losing money still with England, right? Because England had already lost the area known today called the Northwest, which is Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, um, uh, um, Wisconsin, that area. They had already had to cede that area over to the British because they were losing the war in that area. And when they ceded that area over to the British ceded the area over to the new baby corporation called the U.S. Corporation and their colonial agents. Did they change their name over to what you know them today as governors? All right. So for $15 million, it was up for sale. The merchant contract, the high merchant contract was up for sale. And Jefferson questioned that. He questioned the Constitution question to buy that because they had not been granted that area by the king. They were only granted the eastern seaboard and the permission to move to the northwest ordinance by the King James melanated brother, hmm in which they were defecting from. All right. So during that time, now keep in mind now, all our kin folks ain't our skin folks, y'all. All our kin folks ain't their skin folks, because you doing they had people that were going out scouting the area, and then we had our skin folks got in on helping them. So Lewis and Clark explored the new territory with Sasakawea for 2 years and 4 months. So she went in as a friendly, but she wasn't a friendly. Just as I hate to break y'all news, Harriet Tubman, her too. All right, so we're gonna get past that. We'll cry about that another day. Harriet Tubman was such she was just as Sasakawea. She wasn't helping nobody free. She was helping them to get land. All right, yeah. So let me see. Some happened here. Exit full screen. We're gonna do that. All right. So with that taking place, the American settlers, they was pushed west. They were pushed west. And American nations, they were divided on how to deal with the intruding white settlers. They weren't called white. It was called European settlers. Pale settlers. They called them pale. Now, some tribes, some nations, they were persuaded to sign and cede away their land to the U.S. We're not America, people. U.S. dot s, and you're seeing that word u dot s for a reason. So what do we celebrate her for? What? I don't celebrate. I know. When it come out, your brain just start exploding. Well, what's going to happen is that when you learn that Malcolm X was telling the truth, then when he said we have been bamboozled, we have been run amok, and then at the end, before they gave the Masonic shot to the head for King, but they missed his head and hit him in the throat. He lived, but they still sent somebody in there to go ahead and suffocate him. So when you learn that when he gave the last speech and when he said he have seen the mountaintop and he's afraid he left his people in the burning building and you exiled in your own land, when you realize that those last statement ring true, and when you realize that the Wizard of Oz is telling you that you already home, you were not transported here on a boat. A lot of these things, when you have a falling away and a breaking away of the lie, you don't have a choice but to stand in your truth. You can't unsee what you see and you can't unlearn what you learn. And you'll be able to walk boldly in who you are. And then we could be able to come out of this shit that's going on right now. So that's what's gonna take place. Now, because when over the holidays, my concert and I, we were going over a lot of the uh treaties and things, and we came because we were looking at land patents. I'm gonna tell you what we was doing. We was looking at land patents, and I think it's very important for people to start going to the babe, put the tag in there of the Bureau Land Management, the Bureau of Land Management. Put the link in the chat, babe. Put that in there for me, please, so people can start going in there and looking in the Bureau of Land Patent. You're going to see these land patent that was signed by all these different presidents and things of that nature, where they were already identifying, yeah, this your land, this your land. Hey, do you want to buy it? And I don't know how they could sell something to you that was already yours. And then what you're going to see, um, there's going to be something called a track book where they were keeping track of, oh, the person already owned this land. So you'll say how much was it, and it's zero. And you'll see how many acres of land that we already own and things in the land patent. And I'm gonna tell y'all now they're gonna shut this thing down called check, because this thing is just getting too good to be true. So what you're gonna do, you're going to find your land patent for your kin folks. You're gonna go get their birth certificate. You're gonna get old pictures. You're gonna get everything you can get to connect yourself back to your ancestors and back to the land. And you're gonna go through what they say in the Bible. You're gonna go restore which was taken from you. And you're gonna go in chat and you're gonna tell chat to write you a restoration um of land to reclaim that land, and you're gonna have all your information, and you're gonna send that off to wherever you need to send it off to. That's what you're gonna do. So you're gonna do that work because it's that time. It's that time to. We're not waiting for post millennium. We're not waiting for post millennium. I want you to take this word because we have been waiting for this for too long. We're not waiting to be restored back. We have to do our own restoring. All right. So you're going to go back and you're going to do the research. And I'm not talking about no DNA. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I'm not talking about no DNA, because there should be no corruption of blood. That is and write that down. That is a number one. That is a number one maximum law. There should be no corruption of blood. Ain't no, oh, you 10% Indian, or we ain't playing that game. That game is dead. You're gonna go in those, you're gonna dig in those records, you're gonna dig in the crates, you're gonna dig in all that, and you're gonna say, oh shoot, my grandmama owned 1,200 acres of land. You're gonna get that. You're gonna claim that. So that's what you're gonna do there. All right, because that's what happened. They force, through threat, duress, and coercion, they force our nations out of their land and ceded them to the U.S. But the people are waking up. And when you wake up, there cannot be a violation of your restoration. There cannot be a violation of your restoration because it's called nunc pro tunc. Now for then. Nunc pro tunc. Get this work. You're going to get this work today. Nunc pro tunc. Now for then. What you know now, you're going to execute it then, and you're going to go get your inheritance. All right? So there you go. So Tashima pushes for a confederacy or United Native American Nations. Now, we're going to dodge the hijack on that word native because we already know who the natives were. They were the they were the pretending to be us. So we're going to dodge the hijack on them because they the ones who agreed to be to pretend to be the $5 Indians, pretending to be us, pretend to get on the Dawes Roll, to be reserved into a land that was not theirs to play the game. And their monopoly game is over now. They just got busted out and lost. Now, William Henry Harrison attacks Shawnee, the Shawnee tribe, and discovers that because they were using British Canadian arms. Yes, you can't write it down, but guess what? You can always go back and hit rewind, stop, all that. This is gonna be on the page. Just Another Messenger is out there archive. Go back. You're gonna stop, play this homework time, do your homework, and write these good notes down. All right. So let's look at this. Now let's look at this. We're talking about an old battle that's still taking place. This is a 1804 slaying of Alexander Hamilton. All right. So this is we call the Jefferson versus Hamilton, and it's the rogue of the Hamilton ambition on Burr. Now today, clearly we're gonna look backwards a little bit because more than 200 years ago, the United States witnessed another moment when one branch attempted to reshape the justice system for control. And this moment had defined by three men whose conflicts still echo throughout our institutions today. Now, and I'm gonna say our institutions because we are a part of that institution in the public. Now, this is where the law cannot serve one man. Now, Alexander Hamilton, he believed that the executive must be strong, but bonded by law, persecutor power, and they must never become a weapon of personal vengeance of political favoritism. Now, as you can see in this illustration right here, this is an illustration of Burr and Hamilton in a duel. And this is when Burr unalived Alexander Hamilton. Now, Burr was the vice president to Thomas Jefferson. All right. Now his writings can be felt in the courtrooms today, where where Hamilton talked about that no president can rewrite the justice system to suit their personal agenda. But Jefferson, he didn't always agree. He didn't always agree with that, because this is what happened during that process that took place. Jefferson and Burr made when Burr unalived Hamilton, Jefferson went on a rampage by trying to purge the Federalists. When he took office in 1801, he orchestrated his own purge by trying to remove the Federalist aligned prosecutors and judges whenever possible. And Jefferson also believed he was correcting political imbalance. Now, his opponents believed he was consolidating executive power. Who does that sound like? The arguments we hear today, which is course correction versus political takeover, are echoes of Jefferson era. Now, Jefferson also, his actions also created a constitutional crisis. Aren't we dealing with a constitutional crisis that forced the judiciary to reclaim its independence, laying the groundwork for the judicial review and the limits that we rely on today. So we heavily rely on the judicial to maintain and hold the wall against any type of rogue executive power. And I mean, it's a reboot, a playbook of 1800s. Like, it sounds so familiar, right? Now, if you look at the pictures right here, this is what took place in the courtroom. This is an old cautionary tale that took place in the courtroom between Jefferson when he was in the attempt to prosecute Burr and to use every political outreach possible to prosecute Burr. And but Burr, he represents what happens when ambition outruns the law. And after falling out of favor, he became entangled in accusations of treason, a plot to carve out his own empire of the West. But what's often forgot is this: Jefferson tried to use the prosecutorial system to crush Burr politically. He pushed prosecutors, pressured the courts, and sought to dictate outcomes. But guess who stepped in? Chief Justice John Marshall. He pushed back, just as you saw with the Elena Hobbit. Chief Justice Brand push back on the Elena Hobby situation. That's why it's very important for those justices to stand their ground and assert that even the president cannot compel the justice system to serve his agenda. But Burr, now, he was ultimately acquitted, not because he was innocent, but because the system fought to remain independent. And the Haber ruling is today's version of that pushback, where it's a reminder that even in political volatile moments, the legal system still holds pressure points that resist politicalization. Yes, these pressure points still going on today. And let's look at this modern purge. What does the modern purge look like in the courts that refuse to bow? Now, the disqualification of Hobble, it is not an isolated incident at all. It is the first visible crack on the broader strategy. It's like not the checkmate, but it's like the king moved but got saved by the queen. It's the first visible check. It is installed loyalists into strategic U.S. attorney roles. It redirects federal prosecutors, and it influences political cases, undermines institutional independence, and it replaces career prosecutors with personal affiliates. Now, Hobble was simply the most obvious placement. Now, don't get it twisted. There are other defactors in there as well that has not, the snake's head has not popped up yet, but we're going to see them because we're coming out of this last cycle. This is the last cycle of the number 9 of 2025, and we're going into a reset in 2026. So you're going to see more actions, more heads popping up, and I believe one of those heads about to be knocked off is EP6, because if you go back and look at what's going on when he sent that directive out, I think his head gonna be knocked off too. So this is the one that the administration believed was slipped through the cracks without objection, and she did not slip through the cracks. She did not slip through the cracks at all. But the courts don't forget their history, and we should be glad of that. We should be glad that the Supreme Court do never forget their history. They never forget the difference between etymology, originalists versus constructionists, because there is a political football of language going on in these rooms. And Hamilton's insistence on institutional boundaries, Jefferson overreach, Burr's trials, Marshall's defense of judicial independence, all of those cases form the DNA of today's legal system. And the judiciary didn't just rule against Hubble, it invoked centuries of constitutional tension. And in doing so, it exposed exactly what the administration hoped to quietly rearrange. And this is why, when you look at this, this is a war over the justice system. You think you're seeing one umpire, you're actually looking at two. You're looking at one that say supreme, the one that say ball, and you looking at one that say court, that say strike. And then you looking at what you're calling an umpire, but in the legal sense, it's called an arbitrator. And he's saying, guys, it was the same pitch. What are we doing here? Are we doing originalism? Are we doing constructivism? That's why it's important to understand language. It is going to be very vital, people. And I'm going to say this, it is going to be very vital for you to understand etymology. It's going to be very vital for you to understand just the smallest layer of law to defend yourself from 2026 and beyond, to not get trapped up in these continuous legalese. It's going to be very important because you're going to be challenged on your continuation of your racial construct. You're going to be challenged on birthright citizenship. You're going to be challenged on knowing the difference between residence versus location. You're going to be challenged on knowing the difference between your straw versus the straw man, the transmitting utility versus your sovereign authority as a spiritual living being. You're going to be challenged on every end. And I mean, they are turning the fire up. So stay in tune. So, like I said, this is the world of justice, to maintain or to allow it to fall down. Now, and this is why we talk about the decision. We talk about the war over the justice system is just beginning. Because what we witness is not just the fall of one appointee, it's the first breach in a much larger structural push. It's a push to reconstruct the justice system in the image of the executive branch. It's a push that the founders debated violently. But here's the thing about it, no one is talking about the original constitutions of the various nations. So that's where the argument is going to really become stronger with the people that are sovereign and attached to the land, because it's going to be calling for the restoration of that. And that constitution and those treaties are going to be reigning supreme. So that the banking system is going to have to now, is going to be a laying down and a falling away, because it's not going to be applied when you are in a different capacity, in your sovereign capacity. But you're also going to have to know, are those two paradigms going to be able to stand with the sovereign paradigm? Would it be able to rise up and take its position back, while also the foreign public remain in operation? Because other than that, you're going to be doing a seesaw between public and private, public and private, public and private, public and private. So this is talk about the battle for this is going on, the war with the justice system. And it's a push that the courts have resisted before and are resisting again. And the Howard ruling tell us this. This is what the Howard ruling tells us today. It tells us today that the real war isn't over a single appointment. It's over the architecture of justice itself, which has been in question since the beginning of inception of the U.S. And before that, it was styled as the United States. All right. And if Hamilton were alive, he would tell us this is exactly the moment that he feared. If Jefferson were alive, he would argue the executive is merely reclaiming necessary authority. Now, if Burr were alive, he would simply remind us how easy it is for ambition to outrun the guardrails of law. If the Anishinaabe nations, if the Cherokee nations, if the Choctaw nations, if all the American nations were standing, they would say, put your deer antlers on your head and take your rightful place among man and be of good counsel. All right. So that was what would take place. And we are standing in their aftermath, and we must decide whether is there another turning point here. We must decide that, or are we just going to ignore it and allow another reigning of another foreign occupier to reign on the land for another 250 years? That is the golden question we're dealing with. And we're dealing with that because we're dealing with originalism versus constitutionalism, constructionalism. Originalism deals with the public meaning, the intentional meaning, the original methods, the original law, which is divine law, maxims of law, etymology, versus hybrid theories, living originalism, constitutional compromises, or original law versus originalism. Or is this a living constitutional? And so this is original versus construction. More readings, people making things up, multiple meanings. This mean this mean that. This is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a political football of language. And that's why it's very important to understand these things that are taking place. And that's why you're here on Just Another Messenger, so we can get this information and you can be a messenger and you run out and you tell the next person. You're not going to save everybody, just one. Just one. Let's just get this message to one more person, and one more person. And that's how we're going to do that. All right. And in doing so, we're going to look at the bigger picture. And this is a battle over sovereignty. This is a battle over indigenous sovereignty, continuation of foreign sovereignty, or a continuation of financial sovereignty. So that is the bigger picture that we're dealing with today. All right. Now we're going to have coming soon. We're going to have what we call Fine Print Friday, where we're going to get into the real reading of these and understanding the language of that. We're going to be building it out for the new year to come. All right. So in the interim, and until we unload that, stop at our Etsy store at JustAnotherMessenger.etsy.com. Holidays approaching. Go out there and get some great digital reads out there. Some of our merchandise that's learning tools for your children. We had a Giving to the Roots grammar series, coloring book. It is a great book to help your child learn and understand this, even for adults to really go brush up on that. And it's a coloring book. You can digitize it and color it digital, do an app called Procreate. So you can do that. And also we have cool merch out there as well. So go out there and continue to help support the channel through our shop at JustAnotherMessenger.etsy.com. And in the interim, tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Just Another Messenger on YouTube. Keep in mind that we are not monetized, so support the channel through our Cash App at $ Just Another Messenger. All right. And if you or someone you know would love to be a part of the show, send us this friendly email to JustAnotherMessengerPodcast@gmail.com. And in the interim, in the end, we're going to bid you farewell. Go back, hit replay, pause, take notes, and get into your studies. See you next week.
Yo, tuned in, it's that time again. Welcome to the show under the bright zen. Just another messenger bringing the news with the beat in your soul. Let's light up these views. We're diving deep, no time for snooze. Grab your headphones, let me share the clues. In a world so loud, where voices collide, we find the rhythm, let the truth be our guide. Hit that play button, feel the vibe. Every second counts, let's take that ride. From stories untold to laughs we share. Just another messenger, we're always there. Hi. It's a jam, just sit back and unwind. With our flow and our style, it's one of a kind. Like the mix, just like a DJ spins. We serve you the truth where the journey begins. It's a jam, we're all in this together. Sound waves licking us, no matter the weather. Just another messenger, we keeping it tight. With every single drop, we rise and ignite. Yeah.